thirdclass.net for music, bullskit.com for comedy. You are listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice. I'm your host, Lee Boyle. We are sponsored by the Speaking of Music show at YouTube. The Speaking of Music show delves into music of yesterday and today. Give them a listen. And we are sponsored by the Orange Avocado, raw, vegan, gluten-free desserts. If you're the type of person who used to make a song for your answering machine on a demo keyboard and you're a little lonely these days, keep listening. There's something here for you. Just hold on tights or hold on spandex. I represent the small town Midwestern attitude and I'm here to entertain you. So thank you for listening. Hi guys, welcome to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice. My name's Lee. You know that already. Tell them who you are and what you do.
My name is Niko, and I just graduated from Youngstown State University with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in painting.
Nice. The reason I sought you out is because I'm trying to find creative people in Ohio. I started this podcast from an avenue from a band I'm in called Third Class and a comedy troupe I do called Bullskit Productions. I'm still 18 at heart, but I'm really 31. And I said to myself, hey, just as a nice little side project so we're not always just like spitting out songs and spitting out videos at people, why don't I just follow some threads to people I know? And I was like, it'll take a little bit, like 100. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, whoa, people I actually know here in Ohio? It's like 700 people or something. It's going to take me 7 years, at least, just to get like people that I know of, let alone friends of friends. So, with that in mind, what drew you to art?
Actually, it was my senior year of high school. I had never taken an art class before that year, and I developed such a close relationship with my art teacher. She really recognized natural talent and ability and kind of ignited a passion for me and really, really strongly pushed me to go to university for art. So that's nice. That's what I did, yeah.
That's pretty cool to hear, man. Do you have a strong belief that if it was a good teacher in any subject, you would have went for it? Or do you feel like you had art in your heart?
I had always liked art. I mean, I had been drawing and painting little doodles and things since I was actually able to pick up a pencil. So it was kind of always there. But yeah, she really made it okay to like art and to want to continue that with higher education. So
nice. So it was a little bit of good timing, a little bit of good teachers. And, I had somebody like teachers, if they're good enough, they can make you like anything, let alone something that you already were okay at. But I had somebody who went to Kent State who was teaching Shakespeare. I'm not really that type of person. You could probably take one look at me or hear me talk for 1 minute and know that I'm not a Shakespeare and like Blake type person. I'm like a beat poets guy, like that kind of. That's what I like. I like Gary Snyder and Allen Ginsberg and that kind of hippie stuff. Mm-hmm. And but the guy was just so good. He was just so good, and he had us memorize a scene from Shakespeare. And I was like, this guy's just too good. He's making me like this stuff. It's awesome. So to have had somebody who pushed you into something you already were okay with is nice. Some of the reason I sought you out, besides you being creative, is like I'm from East Palestine. You're from East Palestine, Ohio. People, listeners who don't know, that's Columbiana County, Ohio. Very small town. PA border with Darlington, Pennsylvania, Chippewa. We always consider ourselves between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. What do you think about East Palestine and how it shaped you and what it made you do as a creative person?
That's actually a really interesting question. I haven't really reflected much on this. I would say that there was always some sort of interest, like as I mentioned earlier, since I was a kid with art and drawing. And there were two friends that I had growing up that definitely, I think, kept that creative and imaginative streak in me. Is that all right to mention their names?
Yeah, go
Okay.
give them a shout out.
Definitely Nate Slaughter. He was one of my best friends growing up, and actually, his dad was the pastor of the church that we went to.
Okay.
And so he was always drawing and helping me develop my skills, because he had a lot of, he really excelled at drawing, and so that was always nice to learn from him. And also Brie Crum, she's always kind of been more on the, I wouldn't say the wild side, but definitely more of a unique individual.
Has an edge.
Definitely an individual, yeah. Has
That's
an
good.
edge.
Yeah. I know of her.
Yeah, and she's always been a huge influence on me too. And we're still friends today. We definitely don't talk as much as I'd like to, but
Sure.
we keep in contact. So yeah, definitely those two people being my best friends growing up, we all kind of, I think creative minds are kind of drawn to each other naturally, so.
Especially in the small town, huh?
Exactly.
They got to find
yeah.
each other. Well, that's cool. It's nice to know that your friends had a big part in like keeping you on track to like, it's very easy to brush feelings off of wanting to create or have fun even.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And small towns, some people say you start drinking or you start you either get way into drugs and alcohol too far where you have a problem, or you find another way to entertain yourself where you're keeping it healthy, and it sounds like that's what you did.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your relationship to music?
I've also always had a strong interest in music. Pretty much, I used to listen to the radio at night when I was falling asleep. Mm-hmm. So any pop music that was on the radio throughout the 90s, I was all about. Like people always say to me, "You're too young to know and really be into 90s alternative and pop music," but literally I grew up with it. I would almost say I was kind of raised by it. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of 90s alternative music, the lyrical value is really strong, definitely compared to some pop music today that you hear on the radio.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Without sounding like an old timer, the lyrics were a little bit more important at that point, definitely. At least in mainstream.
Yeah, like socio-political, I think importance,
Sure.
definitely. So, and I've always kind of been into alternative music.
Sure.
Actually went to a lot of third class shows.
Sure,
when
yeah,
I was
definitely.
younger. So,
and I saw you not long ago too, man.
Yeah.
You've been consistent enough, like, that I'm happy. Like you and I just ran into somebody in Friend's Specialty downtown here, who's I think also from East Palestine. And I was just thrilled because I'm like, I'm 31, man. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm excited to get younger. I know you're not like worlds and worlds younger than me, but like, it's nice to stay connected. That's who drives the creative culture. Yeah, and obviously, you stayed connected with music through older people too. You listened to music that was slightly, slightly before your time when you were young and stuff. So.
My parents got me into like 60s alternative music. I mean, I guess it wasn't really deemed alternative at the time,
right.
But 60s pop music, 70s,
nice.
And I just kind of found a personal interest in like 40s swing and 50s
really?
doo-wop. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I would say I have a pretty eclectic taste in music.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know a lot of people consider the 90s and 60s and 90s certain attitudes synonymous, like the 60s or the 90s was a resurgence of a little bit of that, like you said, political lyrics or lyrics that were philosophical or whatever you want to say.
Right.
But I like that you're saying 40s and stuff too. Do you go? Do you get into like dance at all? Like, do you go to like
I have
Cedars?
gone to Cedars with swing night.
Swing night, Youngstown.
Yeah.
People that don't know about that, Thursday nights
very
at Cedars Lounge in Youngstown on Steel Street, swing night.
And it's literally all ages too. Just a little plug for them.
Oh, nice!
Like,
I didn't know that.
There's everyone from early 20s to middle-aged and even in their senior years. Like,
I see what you're saying. You're not saying it's an all ages night where it's under 18.
No.
Yeah.
It's
but you're saying
all
it's
kinds of people that
eclectic.
go to swing. Yeah.
That's cool. And guys, it's dance. We don't mean... No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. It is dance. It's not... Okay, guys, it's a sex swap at Cedars, okay? No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, okay. Well, and are you musical yourself otherwise?
Through school, I was in band, marching band and concert band.
Okay.
But really beyond that, not tremendously. I was really into drums for a while and tried actually another local musician, if you haven't talked to her yet, Shiloh Hawkins. When we were 16, we tried to do a little music experiment together, but it didn't really work out. Can't really... Mm-hmm. Two-person band is really hard.
That is hard. That's hard.
Do.
She's running a two-person band now, but it's a long time coming. It's
right. Yeah.
She had to have had
forever.
Right, and she had to have had kind of a full 4 or 5 person band in order to whittle down to the 2-person version. So totally makes sense. Starting there, that's hard.
Yeah.
And Shiloh is in, the act we're referring to, if any listeners are interested, is called Blew Through Branches. And what they do is kind of like, they got this folk pop thing happening, but it's real slow, like lots of ballads, lots of like love songs and stuff like that. Really beautiful. And I'm so jealous of her. I recently played a show with her at Cedars, Blew Through Branches. And I told her, I was like, hey, I'm not self-deprecating, but you're just born with that voice. You understand? I was like, I don't think I'm less than you. I don't think you're better than me, but I'm jealous because I don't come from that. I come from kind of this rough around the edges sound that kind of has been polished throughout the years. And she comes from out the womb sounding just like she sounds now as far as her voice goes. The songwriting and everything else I'm sure was developed and brought into a 2-person and took work, but her voice is just one of those weird somehow she can sing from any corner in the room and it'll sound not too abrasive, but somehow fill the whole room with volume. It's amazing.
She's drawn influence too from 90s alternative. She's a huge Ani DeFranco fan.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
See, that's cool stuff.
And she's from Columbiana County.
Columbiana County, yeah.
She's from Columbiana.
Most of us are these transplants from Columbiana County or elsewhere, saying we're from Youngstown when we're not. But we love Youngstown, we love Ohio. Well then, do you think that being in band in high school, do you think that perturbed what could have been a songwriter's mind? Some people say you get too much of the technical, you lose the imagination, and some people say if you get too much of the imagination, you can't execute.
No, I don't think that it hindered that. And I would also tie that into art because, if you're a musician, you're an artist.
Same
definitely
thing.
Wholeheartedly believe that. So I think even if you do have natural skill and talent, I think that can always be polished or, just brought up to a whole new level with the development of technical skill.
Sure.
So I definitely wouldn't say that I would be as strong of an artist, not necessarily musically, but more with fine art if I hadn't gone to school to develop those skills.
Okay. And then you would say...
the same thing for music.
Same for music, yeah. And probably crossover as it I know you probably aren't painting now and you're thank goodness I was in band in high school, but cross-pollination of creating or performing and stuff, I'm sure is good.
Yeah.
And when we talk about you doing art, painting in particular, is there anything you're working on right now that you're excited about?
I haven't started any new projects recently. I did some new types of art that I hadn't really worked with previously for my senior show. As I said, I just graduated in May, and I actually did an installation piece. So I know that's not painting, but for me, that's a huge exploration of other media, and I think it was pretty successful for my first installation piece. And that project had a lot to do with gender, specifically gender identity, and that's what a lot of my work deals with. So there are so many avenues of that subject that haven't really been explored as much as they could have. And so I would like to keep going with that. A lot of the feedback that I got on that project was to keep pushing, keep developing it, because as an initial installation, it was good, but it could definitely be better. And there are so many different options and variables that can be adjusted for that project to make it better. And
so that's an ongoing thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was actually suggested that I tried to tour it across the U.S. because it was actually kind of like a listening station. Basically, what I did, I asked people within the trans community to submit voice clips, and I had them talk about instances where they felt vulnerable, exposed, or dysphoric as a trans individual. And I looped these recordings within this structure that I made, and the structure had windows all through it, but they were one-way windows. So inside you couldn't see out, but outside you could see the person listening to these like insecurities being expressed. So it was a really, really intense piece.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, but like I said, there are so many different things that I could do with it, and I would like to keep doing that. I'm kind of really stuck on this, these personal stories, kind of like what you're doing with this podcast.
Yeah,
so,
trying to snowball that into something.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of where I am right now with my work.
Well, I definitely think that culturally, our generation has been encouraged to like write what you know, and we've taken it like super literally. Like there used to be like a saying, like about like how an artist never puts anything of themselves into their work, and that's gone out the window. And like now all of us are like, yeah, oversharing. There are some sides to it that are like obnoxious, but there's some sides to it that are like really fun because we are unfiltered now in like what we create. And combining visual art with music, like what we were talking about. Something I wanted to bring up is we recently, if listeners, again, I'm giving you lots of things to do, homework, but go, thirdclass.net, where my band is at, and if you go there or at least search on Google or on any, browser, Third Class on a page, we recently used you, Niko, in a video that our friend Dana Mooney, who's been on the podcast, shot. And we used this footage that was like really short footage, but we just kind of like synced it up to this song called On a Page from our album, Hymns from Some Small Town. And it just hit me today, I'm dense. And I don't know if it hit you, but people would have to know you to think this, but the song became about something else with the video to me. Like, the song was about how me and my brother in the band, Jack, our father passed away in '93. And I just wrote a song about a kid's perception of when somebody goes away and where they go. And it's just about like drawing a picture of what you think heaven looks like and thinking about our dad and stuff. And then I just realized, just today when I woke up, seriously, I know it sounds like this sounds too perfect, but I just woke up today knowing I was going to come see you. And you in the video talking about like, when you talk about art that represents like trans culture and stuff like that, it's kind of like in the video, it's like the lyrics say, now you are somewhere in some small town up in the clouds in some drawing where I drew things that look like heaven. And I feel like it's like you're from a small town and you're someone else now. And it's almost like the lyrics don't directly apply, but it felt like it was kind of saying goodbye and hello to you in the video.
Yeah.
Really weirdly.
Yeah.
You know? That sounds, I said it too wordy and it sounds like I'm reaching, but for real, I feel like it fits well. Like, I think that's when I put the video up, people responded a little, and like my bandmates really, they usually give me an eye roll and they're like, yeah, that's cool, I guess, whatever. But this one, they were all anonymous, like, I love that video. My brother Jack, you know him enough to know.
Yeah.
He's like,
a man of few words.
Yeah, man of few words.
So that's big.
Yeah, so they loved it, and maybe part of it had to do with, like, I know they're not super familiar with you, and I'm not super familiar with you, but maybe it was like this weird video that represented transformation. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that's a stretch at all. I think that's a valid comparison. I was absolutely blown away by the video. I mean, I've seen the video footage before, but just like,
isn't it weird what
just
little
the
you
small
can take
edits
to,
and put to that song. It was too good to be true. That's why I said that no footage that I could have given you would have done it any justice. So yeah, no, I thought it was perfect, and
it's amazing. I don't know why. Like I could draw conclusions all day about the meaning, and that's what for someone who hears the song to do.
Right.
But like, man, yeah,
but
it's
that's
funny.
kind of the purpose of art, I think, is to get not only be aesthetically pleasing, which that's not always the case, and that's not the sole purpose of art, but to get some sort of reaction or some sort of to get your audience to emote something from the work. I think that's one of the key points of art, and I think that's something that this song does. And with the video accompanying it, as we said about visual art and audible art being put together, I think it's just perfect. A great pairing.
And it's weird because that song's got one guitar and 3 voices in it. It's got one person in it. And I'm imagining Dana was just shooting you and telling you to kind of like be yourself, and like you look real emotional, like you're being wistful in the video kind of, and then other parts you look like you're kind of just like hanging out, and then at the end, just weirdly timed, you start laughing when we start laughing in the recording.
Yeah.
And it's just like weird that stuff sometimes actually syncs up correctly in life. Like every like 100th time something works.
Yeah. And that was actually shot in Columbiana County too.
Was it?
Shot in Columbiana.
What laundromat were you in?
Well, that's in Boardman.
Okay, that's Boardman laundromat, but the hillsides and the grass
fields and
you were
stuff, that was in Columbiana.
You look really like you're thinking of something. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, good. That represents somebody thinking about like somebody they've lost or something. I mean, like in a weird way, it could be applied to your life, like thinking about you, that you've lost and gained and become a different person and this and that and stuff like I don't know.
It's funny because some people who have transitioned, they do talk about their previous selves in the third person, and I mean I am definitely one of those people. It's kind of funny. It's a little bit ridiculous, but
and that's why
I think it's valid. Because well, especially for me, I think that I just completely really came into my own through this transition. I don't feel that I was the same person that I was previously at all. Physically,
the third person kind of helps you deal with that.
Definitely. So I think that that's a valid thing to say about saying goodbye to my previous self and then hello to who I am now.
And you're obviously not alone in that view. I've rarely met anyone who's gone through a transition like the one you've gone through who doesn't. Maybe they don't. I don't know if they always like technically want to refer in third person, but they definitely say like, "That's not me anymore." I've rarely met someone who's like, "What do you mean? I'm still that." You know, like it's very interesting.
I mean, my personality is still predominantly.
You still like the same things. You obviously were talking about art that you liked when you were younger.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying you're like not the same, but like to help you actually feel like, you know, to help you. And probably other people, when you refer to yourself, understand like a transition, like it probably just is the right language to use to talk about your past self in third person.
Yeah, I think. I think it may actually be a little confusing because, like I said, your personality, for the most part, doesn't really change. Maybe there's some maturity development there, but for me, I was definitely more quiet, reserved. Kind of, what's the word? Like
shy,
off-putting, not really shy, but kind of like
awkward.
Yeah, awkward, unapproachable.
Gotcha.
And now I think that's just flipped completely 180.
I feel the same way about myself. I was that kid that when the teacher called on me, I'd like answer too quiet, and everyone in the class would lean in, and I'd turn red from embarrassment that they were paying attention.
Yeah.
And now I won't shut up, and I feel happy about that. Because I wasn't the same either. So like, I bet, you know, this is like a big assumption for you to make, but let me say this, like, if culturally it wasn't something that had to be explained over and over, you probably would drop the third person act as much, right? Don't you think, like, like you're doing that for other people's benefit and for like actually illustrating your life and what you've gone through.
Yeah.
And if it was more accepted socially today, you might more just be like, hey, not that much has changed. You know, if we were really able to shed our physical selves like we always want to and just be like people kind of hippie say.
Be who you want to be.
Yeah. Then you probably would be like, hey, I'm no different now. But it kind of, the way the culture and the way the newness of this is and the social assumptions, not all negative by any means, but just the newness and the education that is required, it probably is like serves you well to be like, well, if it's confusing, but it's complicated and it's something I have to get into that is like a large talk to have, a big talk, you know, like.
Right.
Like,
that's valid to say too. But it's funny because even my girlfriend, she's also trans.
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she and I mean, when we refer to our previous selves, we still talk in the third person
To each other. Well, that's
to
cool.
each other. So it's, I mean, but it's
it's
just
new
kind of
to
like
you
a
too,
mutual understanding. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it is strange for both of us to look back on who we were, because even though we had lived that life for 20 some odd years,
Sure.
I don't remember what it was like the little tiny insignificant things that would happen throughout the day. I don't remember what it was like to be Megan. You know what I mean? It was like it just completely has left me because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
The little things have whatever things needed to have to have come with you have come, right? So why remember the
Right. So it was like, I mean, I remember some how there's definitely a significant difference in how I'm treated now as a heterosexual white male, and I think that's a completely different topic that we don't need to get into.
Right, but that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I mean that's unavoidable. Unfortunately, like no knocking like people who, like it's unavoidable culturally as much as people want to be indifferent towards. It's just it's weird. It's totally weird.
Right. Yeah, and it definitely exists. That weird like elitist, like patriarchal thing. It exists. It exists everywhere. I promise you. I've experienced it firsthand.
You've seen it actually arrive at your doorstep.
Right. So
when, like people, when you initially before didn't know much about it.
Right. Or I mean, and just the treatment of how people reacted to me, just like in general. Greetings or interactions. I worked retail for a really long time, and when I would say hi to people or ask them if they needed help with anything, just like their body language, their mannerisms, their the way that they talked to me was completely different previously as a lesbian, masculine identifying lesbian,
I see. Yeah, right.
and as opposed to now. So
that's even more interesting because it's kind of a unique experience,
right?
Not as like a okay. Well then I know you don't want to get too far into it because we don't want to like have like a 3-hour podcast. But like, tell me what are the pitfalls? Get into some specific. I can't not ask you to get into some specifics about the patriarchal elitist like thing. Like, what do people treat you like now? Like, give me like a couple specifics.
There is this strange, and I'm not really sure how to describe it other than there's this strange like wolf pack brotherly mentality amongst straight men.
Mentality, I like that.
It is like it's a brotherhood.
Speaking of, look at this guy. He probably has a gigantic penis. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. I almost took you out in front of traffic.
That's all right.
Not paying attention. My bad.
So it's like guys who have never met or seen me before ever. It's like, oh, what up, bro? Or like, hey man, how's it going?
Sure.
And like, there's a lot of physical, like, bro touching, like, hitting chest.
That's not what I thought you were gonna say.
Like punching arms, and it's like this weird.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. That definitely exists. Like it does. I don't know.
And it's always among the, I guess I shouldn't say straightest, but among the most like kind of proper straight guys or whatever you want to call them, the most like long existing straight mentality. Like the guys that are just like, hey, what's up? I give you a little punch on the shoulder. That happens to me a lot, and I'm not the type to do that. But I have to say, man, we all live within a certain set of things, and it's definitely imprisoning.
Yeah.
Like when I it's so stupid, but when I was thinking about when I was meeting up with you, I was like, it's so lame, but like I was like, I'll give it a handshake, because that's like, see, the stereotypes work they work out of favor in both lights. If you're trying to respect somebody,
Yeah.
or if you're just being casual, like I was like, the handshake shows that we're guys, and, like I was trying to give you a stereotype to show you that I didn't think of you as a woman anymore. So,
Right.
It's so dumb.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
It is kind of funny, but
you get imprisoned by those stereotypes,
Yeah.
even when you have really good intentions and are open-minded.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is definitely a social etiquette that I think a majority of people follow across the board. That's just
There
it is what it
but,
is.
like,
and
yeah.
and it's funny because like before transitioning, I felt a lot of the time like I was acting, like I had to play this part that didn't quite fit, but I mean,
Sure.
and I didn't do it very well, I don't think. But now there's you're acting to a certain degree also because, I have lived this other life basically, and now I'm supposed to fit this really masculine dominant role and be like a bro.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that doesn't quite fit either. So it's like I'm still acting, but it's definitely more comfortable on a level that I think that I can be more in tune with.
Well, it completely makes sense to me that you'd kind of have to yourself go to a bit of an extreme in order to like make it there. Like it's like to be like, hey, I am masculine to a point now, obviously, and I'm gonna play the part to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, definitely initially that was
yeah,
the case.
but you're probably like coming back
now
and
it's like-
centering a little. From,
right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can be more who I actually am now because,
Right.
well, and that's just for me personally. Through the physical transition, once I started to definitely look, and I'm gonna use this term pass, that's used in the
Pass, yeah.
Once I started passing regularly, then I could ease up more on the
Exactly.
bro life.
That's what I was imagining.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well that's
but there are a lot of trans men who are really feminine. Actually, a good friend of mine, he's a gay trans man, and he's definitely very feminine. I would say definitely more androgynous, and he's an artist too, and his art style is completely different than mine. I mean, it definitely reads masculine, feminine, even though we're both trans men. So I think that's really interesting too. That it's still not black and white. It's not. There's not a box that you can.
And there's
put
just
in.
not. There's not. No matter, even if it wasn't something that you felt like you had to transition into. Like, when I was, people have eased up obviously, but when I was younger, I had like my friends' moms and like friends being like, "Are you gay? Do you have a girlfriend? You don't have a girlfriend yet," and stuff like like just things that like people say that like. Shouldn't really be an aggressive and mean thing to say. Like,
Right.
I should be like, am I gay? Good point. Let me think about it. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But, like, they said it like, what are you, an idiot? Like, they said it like that, the same thing.
And do you think
Like-
that I'm going to ask you the question
ask
now.
me.
Do you think that that's due to the town that we grew up in, like because it was so small town?
A little. I mean, for sure. Like, no question. And people in that town even have, they just, some people say, they just know what not to say and they still believe it. And some people say they've become more open-minded. I'll take whatever at face value. If they're not mean to me, I'll take them as a nice person. I don't have to get into analyzing that. But, like, I do think that, like, it was never easy to be pinned down, even if you remained your whole life a straight white guy like me, who's kind of, that's a boring like title now, in the instance of like interviews and like creative types. Like, I don't have a backstory as far as my gender or sexuality goes that's like super unique, but that still can't be boxed in. So I completely understand that you say nothing can be boxed in.
Right. Gender is completely fluid, and I mean it's obviously separate from sexual orientation, but there's everything's on a spectrum.
Yeah.
There's no there's no one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intermingling that happens
Exactly.
with everything straight across the board. So
Right. And them talking to me about my orientation should have just made me curious and interested, but it made me fearful because the way they said it.
Right.
And like, let alone, gender as far as identity goes. Like life is just confusing, and we can leave it at that, and that's cool. And like, I'm happy that like people from East Palestine can be talking like this right now, and we're not just like scared of everything and living in a tiny shack with a shotgun, like.
Right. Well, I definitely, I grew up in East Palestine, but after my freshman year of high school, we did move away. We moved to Poland, actually.
Poland, okay. That's
not
right,
that,
that's
not
right.
That that's not entirely more liberal than East Palestine, but it's a little bit bigger. And I actually, one of my best friends from Poland, who I am still close with, he was openly gay, and he was one of the few people actually in the school that was openly gay, and we became good friends, not because he was gay, but just we just clicked. And one of the
like
first
artists
things,
and creative type.
Yeah, he's
you
actually a
have
musician.
to become creative if you're gay. Unfortunately, I know that's a mean thing to say, but like
I
you
think
kind
that's
of
true.
become
I think
this
a lot
person
of
who
people
explores
actually
themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So one of the first things that he asked me when he met me, and of course this was as Megan. He said, "Are you gay?" That was one of the first things he asked me, and I thought that was strange.
Was it in a mean way or a normal way?
No, it was like a. It's really strange within the gay community. It's like that's an okay thing to ask each other, kind of thing. It's like an identify, like, oh, are you on my team? Like, it's like that kind of weird.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got that just from immediately meeting me was, I thought, kind of, I don't know. It made me think. And had that whole thing not happened, I don't think that I would have started this trickle down effect, basically.
I see. Well, that's cool. See, exactly that question when asked in the right, like, I don't want to say tone. I'm not sensitive about that. Like, but when somebody was kind of saying it to me to make fun and hurt my feelings, they weren't really asking. It was a rhetorical, insult question. I should clarify. Yeah. Because if they did say, "Why don't you, girlfriend? Are you possibly like homosexual?" Or I could have been like, "I don't know. I don't think about it." But like, the truth was I was awkward and shy and young, and like, if that's not good enough, and if saying you don't have a girlfriend because you're gay is a bad answer, you just boxing someone into an extreme that just hurts them. Right. Basically, you're saying you're nothing unless you're an aggressive straight white guy. Right.
Well, his question for me was more kind of like a,
are you on my side?
Here's what I am.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to be this. Like, I want you to be able to confide in me, kind of thing. Right. It wasn't like he knew. Mm-hmm. He wasn't asking me because he didn't know. He knew, and he just wanted me to know that it was okay, kind of
Probably
thing.
Could have asked in a variety of ways, but you would have heard the essence of what they were trying to say. It's like, hey, you can confide, you can tell. Right. I'll help you.
Right. Yeah. So
that's cool. And I have to say, listeners, Niko and I, we're not trying to be whiny and act like the small town's hand came down hard on us and hurt us, and we're not trying to say like that those people are bad people. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. How you doing? But we're just trying to say that like
just giving some background.
Overcoming the small town and coming from Ohio, it's not like we wouldn't have had something else to overcome if we were from somewhere else. It's just built in. So listeners, don't take it like we're these sensitive complainers about, we love, Ohio, we love like our friends, and obviously it's your friends that count. One of the first things you said to me about your art was like 2 friends inspiring you. Like, so just want to clarify, not to backpedal in any way, but just like know that you have to go into this certain like mood to talk about East Palestine. And like sometimes it gets a little self-deprecating, but we don't really mean that. Like, we just mean like it's hard not to categorize things, ourselves included, by far, well, that's all cool, and sorry I made you go so far into specifics. Didn't want to waste too much of your time. I'm really glad you met me. I'd like to talk. We can head this way, I guess. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Like, the installation piece you're talking about, is there any place online somebody could see a picture or any info that could lead them to your art in general?
I haven't really posted anything about that specifically online. I do have some of my artwork posted on my Facebook.
Okay.
And people are definitely open or welcome to friend me on Facebook and check that out.
Okay.
I do have a YouTube channel which has a video piece on it also about gender identity, and it's actually my girlfriend and myself in the video, so that's on YouTube.
What's the name of that?
My YouTube channel is Niko McElroy. It's my last name, McElroy.
And the first name's Niko.
Niko, yep.
Okay.
And that's also my name on Facebook. So yeah, if people want to friend me on there or check that stuff out, they're more than welcome to.
That's cool. And I know you're not somebody who's walking around self-promoting like I am, but like you. I'm imagining it's something worth seeing. I'm sure gonna go look it up and probably get something out of it. So I appreciate that. And then the last thing, can you give me a station ID to use later? Like, can you be like, hey, this is Niko. You're listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative voice.
This is Niko, and I would say a good title or sort of heading for this podcast would be Man Up.
Man Up?
Man
okay.
Up, yeah.
I like that.
It's actually what the video's called.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got to
sort of like
work
an ironic.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to work Man Up into the title then. I like that.
Yeah.
So guys, make sure you guys check out again. That's Niko, last name McElroy, McElroy, on YouTube. Video entitled Man Up, 2 separate words.
Yep.
Yeah, check that out, guys. Hopefully we led you to something like fun, educational, creative, or at least just entertaining by listening to this podcast. And then can you say our tagline, "Look, Mom, we're on a podcast."
Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
Thank you. And thank you so much for talking. Is there anything, last tiny thing you want to impart to listeners?
No, just thank you for asking me to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, this was a really good interview. I appreciate it. See you guys. Throw a pizza in the oven, Mom.
This is Jimmy Martin from the Speaking and Music Show at YouTube. Thanks for listening to The Nursery.